Hello everyone, welcome to Raising Vibrations and your Simon today. So in today's video we are going to just have a brief overview of the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, just kind of sharing what the message is that we think is going to take place for us over the next 6 months, and just kind of touching base with what we sense could be the growth pattern for us. What's the potential for us to grow and how to best navigate the changes that are coming, which there are some big changes with Uranus involved. So just kind of quick heads up. This is a small little video that introduces the solar and eclipses, and then we're also going to do a solar eclipse video and a lunar eclipse video. We'll put this in a playlist, so keep your eyes out for those other two videos as we break down the actual new moon and full moon analysis. Okay, so some of you may have noticed that we haven't actually been able to post for the last couple of weeks, and it's just simply that we've had a whole entire house full of flu and sickness, and so just kind of recovering from that. We saw it as a much needed break, but we are back and ready and really excited to talk about what these eclipses are doing. So I think the first thing that we want to check in with is for those of you that are fairly new to astrology, and you've just come across this channel and kind of getting a sense of what we do. We use human design and evolutionary astrology to essentially help and support and provide people with the best navigation tools as we're going through these deep changes. So for those of you that are fairly new to astrology, just kind of getting a sense of how we communicate here. This is very much about, what is the growth potential, how can we heal ourselves through these patterns, and what are essentially are the lessons that we can integrate. Okay, with that being said, so what is a solar and lunar eclipse? Okay, for those of you that are fairly new to astrology, very simply, when you have an eclipse or a series of eclipses, two mainly, what you're looking at is when the sun and the moon in a new moon conjunction, when the sun and the moon align together, they form a exact alignment on top of each other, and they will form on what is called the moon's nodes. Okay, and you'll see on the screen right now there'll be an image of the moon's nodes. These are two abstract points in space, and when you have a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, this is when the full moon is landing on a south node, like in this case with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and when we have the new moon in Taurus, that will be landing very close to the node. So it's essentially eclipse season or eclipse pattern is when you have a full and new moon and they land on what is called the moon's nodes. Okay, these 2 points in space. All right, so the new moon, which is going to happen in Taurus, this is on the 30th of April 2020, and you'll see on the screen right now there'll be the dates for when this solar eclipse is happening in Taurus. There you can see 30th, and on the 16th of May is when we're going to have the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Okay, so the full moon where the moon is in Scorpio, and we have the sun in Taurus, and they're on the nodal axis. Okay, all right, so Scorpio Taurus, this is going to happen on the Scorpio Taurus axis, and that's very significant. For those of you that are born with Neptune in Scorpio, of course, this is going to bring up some karmic dynamics related to what Neptune in Scorpio means, that generation, Pluto and Virgos, if you know who you are. For those of you that have got Uranus in Scorpio, of course, you're going to be affected by this. You'll have Pluto in Libra, and of course the Pluto in Scorpio generation. Those of you that have got Pluto in Scorpio, this is going to affect you as well, right? Of course, it's going to affect a lot of other people. Pluto in Leos, this is going to square your Pluto. This is going to square your nodes. For those of you that actually have the South and North node in Scorpio Taurus, this is also going to affect you. So it's going to affect quite a broad perspective of people, right? This is a very significant eclipse pattern. So what is the message that we sense with this eclipse energy? Well, first things first is that it's really, really going to be impactful because it's going to be aligning with Uranus in Taurus, okay? And of course, for many of you that have probably been tracking the astrology, you'll notice as well that Venus and Jupiter will also be playing an important conjunction, right? These two planets will be aligning in Pisces. So, you know, Venus is associated with Taurus. And of course, we have Uranus in Taurus. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. So we've been dealing with a lot of Taurian themes with Uranus since 2018. And now that we're having this lunar and solar eclipse on the north and south node, and the energy will be aligning with Uranus, what I can say to you is that if recently, we've seen that the nodes have shifted. When I say recently, a couple of months, the south node's in Scorpio, north node's in Taurus. Think of this next 6-month period as the activation of this cycle that is south node to Taurus, south node through Scorpio, north node through Taurus. This is the activation point. This is like, oh, if we wanted to know what was happening or what is going to occur, what is going to shift for us collectively regarding this nodal axis, think of this as the igniting point. Okay, this is ignition. This is like, we're now activated. So we're coming in really, really strong with this nodal axis, and Uranus, of course, is being activated. And the parallel that I drew between Venus and Jupiter conjunction in Pisces, and of course influencing Taurus, it speaks to the pattern of many things, and I'll definitely jump into this with the solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. But the message here is we're going to experience a split in the next 6 months, okay, around those that can manage reality in a way where you recognize and understand that you have self-reliance skills, that you are able to trust yourself, that you are able to orientate your sense of cognition, like how you interact with reality, and that you essentially are self-reliant, self-capable, that you can navigate yourself, that you are able to captain your own ship, as it were, okay? This solar eclipse that's happening in Taurus is going to bring changes around our capacity to renew our relationship to ourselves. And it's pretty significant. Like, this is a big pattern that's coming up. Whenever you're dealing with Scorpio Taurus, we're dealing with a lot of metamorphosis, a lot of psychological and emotional change and renewal in the collective psyche. And I mean, both me and Jen know that this is pretty significant. So we've actually we're putting together something at the moment, some tools that will be available for you guys to integrate, how you can navigate through this time. So we're busy doing that at the moment, and we'll let you know pretty soon what that will look like, and how we're actually going to be able to support you with this process. Because we know that this is a time of deep integration. This is an evolutionary point of change. This is very much about how you can begin to look at your immediate environment and say, okay, so what am I skillful at? Right? This is Taurus themes. It's what value do you have to life? What value can you contribute to life? What inner resources do you identify and can use? Okay, so the solar eclipse brings in this level of innovation, this reordering of society, and a lot of it has to do with an ability to understand one's unique self. So when I talk about unique self, I say, okay, each of us have different ways of processing reality. We have different skill sets. We have different cognitions, and this energy right now favors an ability to know how to understand your cognition, how to understand your perception, how to understand what you are good at, what resources you're able to connect with. Okay, So this is this Taurus quality. It's like reordering a new healthy relationship to yourself. Okay, so it's kind of like a big deal here. Now, of course, Saturn is squaring the nodes. So this is very significant in the sense that the entire collective is also shifting at an alarming rate around where the resources are. What are resources? How do we value something in society and how do we not? So you'll see collectively more accelerated progressive shifts in new directions around how we define energy, how we define the utilization of energy, how we define like supply chains. I mean, these things are going to be big, and that's why I'm talking about the capacity to know your inner resource, to be able to know how you can interact with things that are just basic in your day-to-day self. Like how do you use your hands? How do you know what you can do with your what skills do you have? These are very key important things. And of course, this will become more and more apparent over the next 6 months. So the same thing happens with this lunar eclipse that's happening in Scorpio. And so we were to think, when there's a lunar eclipse, there is essentially darkness in this area. Okay, so a lot of fear, a lot of fear is going to emerge out of this lunar eclipse. Again, it's in Scorpio, and Scorpio is about the law of impermanence. So the question that we'll be faced with this one is, what are you prepared to let go? What is not working for you anymore? What do you need to surrender and finally let go? And this is any forms of attachments that no longer are healthy for you. Okay? But with this lunar eclipse, what it will reveal over the next 6 months is these unhealthy attachments, is these dependencies towards things outside of yourself. So again, the law of impermanence is a Scorpio law, and it says things don't stay the same all the time. Okay, things change. And so we must be prepared with this lunar eclipse in Taurus to let go of something. And this will mostly involve an emotional and psychological attachment. And that attachment will render an insecurity, right? Or be threatened in some way. So if you think on a collective level, there's two ways to see it. You can see currently globally, there's supply chain shortages, there's concerns about massive inflation, there's concerns about food, etc. These are Scorpio Taurus themes. How do we survive? All right. With the Scorpio part, it is exposing the dependencies, exposing the attachments. Understand? So this solar and lunar eclipse overall pattern, what it's going to do is show us where there needs to be innovation individually in our lives and how the collective will adapt. We're looking at a complete reordering of structure, and we will also look at the suppression of individuation and individuality. So a lot of individuation, a lot of individual energy is going to emerge out of this this creative pattern. So it's very powerful, and there's a lot of profound changes that are going to take place. But at the same time, what we're also going to need to process is our internal emotional attachments to things, whatever that may be. That's where you fill in the blank, whether it be through a relationship, whether it be through work, whether it be through a dependency, whatever that may be. These patterns will be very clear to us. Okay, they'll come and they'll merge, and then we will get to see, is this really the relationship I want with this? Am I prepared to let it go? Do I trust my instincts to process through the change? Okay? The Saturn square the node part has a lot to do, like I said, with the collective shifting, but it is also got to do with our capacity to heal the parts of us that have been wounded, okay, through experiences, and where we may displace that emotion somewhere and feel disempowered because of that wound. So this is also about being able to take responsibility and internalize where we may have been affected by circumstances in life that when we understand our relationship to that experience, we may still feel that we're in grief, or we feel that we are stuck in a process and we feel fundamentally disempowered. This eclipse pattern is going to reveal where those patterns are and say to you, do you wish to still feel disempowered? And what do you want to surrender? and where do you want to be free from these patterns? That's kind of the overarching thing, okay? All right, so like I said, we're really excited. We're doing something in the background at the moment. We will let you know exactly very, very shortly when we've completed what we've created, and it's just some tools that will be available to help you integrate through this eclipse pattern. We know that there's incredible potency for profound metamorphosis, and you know, we can take charge of that, or we can just be like a boat that's just, you know, rocking around, not actually being able to gain control over its direction, just swayed around with this pattern. Okay, so on the screen at the moment, what you will see is the solar eclipse, and if you notice over there, you'll see that actually you'll see there this is happening at 10 degrees of Taurus. It's right on top of Uranus, so we know that there is some sudden acceleration that's coming away, some sudden changes. Uranus Sun Moon conjunction, something is going to change within the next 6 months at a very big level. Pluto also actually goes retrograde just before this solar eclipse, so that's also very significant, and I'll go through a lot of that in the solar eclipse video. If you go ahead and look now, you'll see that there is a lunar eclipse on, and one of the things that's really important to me here is that Chiron Venus conjunction in Aries, as well as Jupiter entering Aries. So like I said, this is very much about a new start. So a sudden shock, a change in direction, and now you are faced with you and your immediate environment and who you are. How do you navigate that space when it's never been explored before? This is a new beginning, a rebirth. And are we prepared for that? Okay, so this is the overall message. I'll be doing a solar eclipse video and a lunar eclipse video. I'll post it in a playlist. This will be part of this. Be on the lookout for that. And until that video, I hope that everybody is well. And I look forward to talking to you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.